January 29, 1945, Holtzheim, Belgium, just before 3 in the afternoon. First Sergeant Leonard Funk steps around the corner of a farmhouse and freezes. 90 German soldiers are standing in front of him. Some already have rifles in their hands. Others are grabbing weapons from a pile on the ground. 4 American soldiers are kneeling in the snow, hands locked behind their heads. 20 minutes earlier, those Germans had been prisoners. 80 of them. Captured during the assault on the village. Company C didn't have enough men to guard them properly. Only 4 soldiers had been left behind. Now those 4 are disarmed. The prisoners are free. And they're organizing to attack the Americans from the rear. A German officer strides forward and slams an MP-40 submachine gun into Funk's stomach. He shouts something in German, loud and furious, face red with rage. Funk doesn't understand a word. The officer screams again, even louder. Funk looks around. 90 enemy soldiers. 4 helpless Americans on their knees. 1 gun pressed into his gut. There is no version of this moment where he survives. The sensible thing would be to surrender. But instead, Leonard Funk starts laughing. No one knows exactly why. Maybe it was nerves. Maybe shock. Maybe the absurdity of an officer screaming orders in a language Funk couldn't understand. Whatever the reason, he can't stop. The German officer stares at him, confused, then enraged, shouting again. Funk laughs harder. Some of the German soldiers begin to glance at each other, uncertain. This is not how surrender looks. Prisoners beg. They comply. They don't laugh. Still smiling, still appearing to give in. Funk slowly reaches for the Thompson submachine gun slung over his shoulder. The officer watches closely, but relaxes slightly, assuming the American is finally surrendering his weapon. Funk's hand closes around the grip. In one sudden, violent motion, he swings the gun down, levels it, and fires. The first burst cuts the officer down before he can react. Funk keeps shooting. The laughter is gone now. There is only motion, training, instinct. He pivots, firing into the clustered Germans at point-blank range. Men fall into the snow. Weapons drop. Screams cut through the air. The Thompson runs dry. In seconds, Funk rips the empty magazine free, slams in another, racks the bolt, and continues firing. At the same time, he shouts at his men to grab weapons. The 4 Americans, on their knees, scramble for rifles dropped by the dead. What was about to be an ambush becomes chaos. The Germans have no orders, no officer, no plan. They expected prisoners, not a counterattack. 60 seconds later, 21 Germans are dead. More are wounded, and the rest throw down their weapons and surrender again. Funk stands in the snow. Smoke rising from his gun, alive when he should be dead. That moment didn't come from nowhere. Leonard Funk was born in 1916 in Braddock Township, Pennsylvania. A steel town where men learned early that nothing came easy. He grew up fast, shouldering responsibility, while the Great Depression crushed opportunity. When the draft expanded in 1941, Funk was small, quiet, and unremarkable on paper. Instead of choosing a safe role, he volunteered for the paratroopers, a brand new force built for dangerous missions behind enemy lines. The training was brutal. Half the men washed out. Funk didn't. On D-Day, he jumped into Normandy under heavy fire, landed far from his drop zone, and injured his ankle badly. He kept moving, alone in enemy territory. He gathered lost paratroopers from different units and led them for 10 days. 40 miles of occupied France. Every man survived. He earned medals, but more importantly, trust. In Holland, months later, he saw German anti-aircraft guns tearing Allied gliders apart in midair. With only 3 men, he assaulted the position and destroyed all 3 guns. More medals followed. Then came the Battle of the Bulge. The freezing cold, the desperate fighting, and the massacre at Malmedy, where German SS troops murdered American prisoners after they surrendered. When Funk heard about it, he made a decision he would never say out loud. He would never surrender. That decision walked with him into Holzheim. After the village was taken, after the prisoners were captured, after his men were stretched thin, Funk had done everything right. And still, everything almost went wrong. When he stepped around that farmhouse and faced 90 armed Germans, he didn't calculate odds. He didn't think about survival. He thought about his men scattered across the village, about the guards on their knees, about what happened to prisoners who trusted the wrong enemy. So he laughed. And while the enemy hesitated, Leonard Funk acted. Later that year, President Harry Truman placed the Medal of Honor around Funk's neck and told him he would that medal then be president. Funk never chased fame. He went home, worked quietly for the Veterans Administration, helped other soldiers navigate life after war, and never spoke much about what he had done. When asked about Holzheim, he shrugged and said he did what he had to do. Leonard Funk died in 1992 and was buried at Arlington National Cemetery. Most people never learned his name, but his story remains a reminder that courage isn't loud, or reckless, or flashy. Sometimes it looks like a quiet man laughing in the face of impossible odds, keeping his head when everyone else loses theirs, and choosing action when surrender would have been easier.